Hello, this webinar is a part of a multi-part series on Constitutional Commencement Day. And this webinar builds on other webinars in this series, and it's titled National Blessings and National Sufferings. And it's about civil covenants and the ramifications for keeping them and breaking them and the blessings and sufferings that result. Well, to review, civil covenants we defined as a solemn agreement between a group of people, their leaders, and God. We reviewed the components that exist in civil covenants, and that is the people, the leaders, God himself, the written covenant, the public oaths or signatures, the acknowledgement of God, the request for God's blessing, and the commitment to him. We gave the example that the Mayflower Compact was the first civil covenant of the American continent, and they gave the purpose of the Pilgrims gave the purpose in the Mayflower Compact as having undertaken this voyage for the glory of God, the advancement of the Christian faith, and the honor of king and country. And then also in that document, the covenant language appears, and that is, in the presence of God and one another, we covenant and combine ourselves together as a civil body politic. And we've discussed how this Mayflower Compact guided the formation of both the state constitutions as they were developed and then eventually the national constitution. As we explored Constitutional Commencement Day, we observed that on that day the people gathered, the leaders gathered, God was present. There was a written covenant that begins with we the people, the Constitution itself. We reviewed that the Constitution is filled with 6 biblical principles of government and also includes the language that we will establish and ordain this, which is very religious and spiritual language, meaning that it's set aside as sacred and submitted to God. There is a public oath made by all the elected officials, an acknowledgement of God, a request for God's blessing, a national prayer and commitment service, and the commitment to him. And so April 30th, 1789 was a very spiritual day. Now, we've not explored this question, the question of Deuteronomy 28. You'll actually find some articles that say the Bible was open to this chapter on Inauguration Day. In actuality, it appears that it was the latter part of the book of Genesis. However, Deuteronomy 28 still applies, as it is probably the best Bible summary of the keeping and breaking of civil covenants and the blessings and sufferings that results. And so this short webinar is designed just to highlight the themes of Deuteronomy 28 and the blessings for nations that rely on God and do not ignore him, and the sufferings of those nations that ignore God or push him out of public life. And so here I give you a summary of the themes, the covenant blessings from Deuteronomy 28. If you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully follow all his commands I give you today, all these blessings will come upon you and accompany you if you obey the Lord your God. The Lord your God will set you high above all the nations on earth. These blessings, you'll be blessed in the city and blessed in the country, blessed as you come and as you go. Your children will be blessed, your land, barns, crops, and livestock, and your food will be blessed. Your work and your creativity, everything you put your hand to, your prosperity, your finances, your national security. You will lend to many nations, but will borrow from none. Your enemies will be defeated before you. Peoples on earth will see that you are called by the name of the Lord, and they will fear you. The Lord will make you the head, not the tail. The people will establish you as a holy people, as he promised you on oath, if you keep the commands of the Lord your God and walk in his ways. However, with covenant breaking comes sufferings. However, if you do not obey the Lord your God and do not carefully follow all his commands and decrees I am giving you today, all these curses will come upon you and overtake you. Experience failure in these areas, in the city and in the country, as you come and as you go. Your children will suffer, your land, barns, crops, livestock, and your food. Your work and your creativity and everything you put your hand to. Your prosperity will suffer, your finances will suffer, your national security will suffer. There'll be confusion, anxious minds, eyes weary with longing, and a despairing heart. The alien who lives among you will rise above you higher and higher, but you will sink lower and lower. He will lend to you, but you will not lend to him. He will be the head, but you will be the tail. Sudden ruin will come because of all the evil you have done in forsaking him, that is God. You will become a thing of horror and an object of scorn and a ridicule to all nations. These failures will be a sign and a wonder to you and your descendants forever. They will be because you did not serve the Lord your God joyfully and gladly in your time of prosperity. So here in our nation, this should give us great cause to reflect. We've been a covenant-making nation since the beginning in the Mayflower Compact, and our Constitutional Commencement Day reflects the same pattern. So citizens, leaders, spiritual leaders, and clergy, we really need to consider these national blessings and national sufferings that are presented before us for nations that regard the Lord and nations that disregard Him. My name's Craig Seibert. Thanks for listening.